Hello Space Cats, it's me Jules, bringing you into the world of Peter Pan and his best little buddy, and frankly the best thing about the story, Tinkerbell. I am really enjoying this series of folklore and fairy tales that I started about 6 months ago. If you want to catch up with the rest of them, there's a little card up here, but don't go yet until you've heard about Peter Pan and his little fairy friend, Tinkerbell, who can't stand Wendy. The story of Peter Pan was written by Scottish author and playwright J.M. Barrie. Peter is a young, mischievous chap who can fly and never grows up. He has never-ending adventures in the mythical place of Neverland, as leader of the Lost Boys, a troop of children who don't have parents. You might have seen one of the films made of this story, some of which differ in narrative details from the original books and play. Peter first appeared in the book The Little White Bird in 1902, which was a novel for adults. Peter appears in a few chapters as a 7-day-old baby, flies from his nursery to London, and is described as betwixt and between a boy and a bird. This novel led Barrie to write a play called Peter Pan, the Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up. It is suggested that Peter's character might have been inspired by the story of his older brother, who died in an ice skating accident the day before his 14th birthday. Thereby, his family always thought of him as forever a boy. We always think of Peter as dressed in green, like a large pixie almost, but interestingly, Barrie didn't give him much description in the books. It is probable that we get our concept of Peter from the costume design in one of the plays, where his outfit is made of leaves and cobwebs. And so to the story. Peter Pan likes to listen at the window of the Darlings' children to the bedtime stories read by Wendy Darling's mother. He does this often until one night he is spotted by Nana and Mrs. Darling, and while trying to escape, loses his shadow. Later, while trying to retrieve it, he is seen by Wendy, who agrees to reattach his shadow. Peter invites Wendy to Neverland to be mother to his lost boys who have no mother and are somewhat rudderless. Wendy's brothers John and Michael join them, and their magical journey to Neverland is pitted with adventure. Peter and his gang build Wendy a little house to live in while she recovers from nearly being killed by one of the Lost Boys. And if you've ever bought or made a little house for your children, now you know why they are called Wendy houses. In one of the adventures, Peter takes the Darlings on a dangerous exploit to the Mermaid's Lagoon, where they and the Lost Boys rescue Tiger Lily, who has been left drowned by pirates. They become involved in a battle with said pirates and meet Peter's nemesis, Captain Hook. Wendy soon begins to fall for Peter, but he doesn't feel the same way. He says he is her faithful son. She and her brothers have all but forgotten about their parents and their home in London, but something reminds her. Her love spurned, she decides to take her brothers home, but is captured by Captain Hook, who also tries to poison Peter's medicine while he sleeps. When Peter wakes, his faithful friend Tinkerbell tells him that the darlings have been captured. Instead of Peter drinking the poisoned medicine, Tinkerbell downs it, almost killing herself in the process. She says the only way that she can be saved is if people really believe in fairies. In his attempt to find Hook and rescue the darlings, Peter encounters the crocodile that Hook is terrified of. Weirdly, it is ticking, so Peter decides to copy that tick, so that other animals will think he is the crocodile and leave him alone. When he boards the ship, Hook hears the ticking and cowers in a corner, while the rest of the crew look for the crocodile. While they are distracted, Peter sneaks into Hook's cabin and steals the keys, releases Wendy and the lost boys. Wendy decides that her place really is at home with her family and her brothers, and her heartbroken mother is delighted to see her and her children back at home, albeit with a ragtag of other boys, whom she agrees to adopt. Peter promises to return for Wendy every springtime. If you're wondering what media I've been using, the two pens that I used for inking are Tombow Fudenosuke hard-tipped brush pen and a Staedtler pigment liner 0.05. For the colours, I used my Winsor & Newton watercolour paints and my new acquisition, my tin of Inktense water-soluble coloured pencils. I have bought a few of these colours previously but decided to splash out on a whole range of them. The paper I used was smooth watercolour paper, 300 grams. If you'd like further artist tutorials, I have a variety of short courses that will help you. There are real-time sessions looking at painting, drawing and marker pens, among others. And if you're keen on producing your own book, there is a more in-depth course on what you need to know about self-publishing a book with illustrations. That covers making key decisions, how to make layouts and dummy books, rhythm and pacing, as well as several tutorials on illustrating a book and a look at the tech. You can either hop over to my website or join me on Patreon for more information. Go on, give it a go! So tell me, if you were going to be one of the characters in the Peter Pan story, could be any of them, who would it be? Next week, I'll be finding out the best way to put an antagonist into your story. Right, I'm off to play in the spring sunshine until dusk, when I have to go home for my tea and do my homework. I will see you next week. Nanu nanu.